Okay, so I want everyone with me to say, unwrapping your spiritual gift. Unwrapping your spiritual gift. We are going to be doing a Christmas series talking about spiritual gifting. Because how many people understand that fivefold ministry without spiritual gifting is kind of like a car without tires? Right? What's the point? And so we, this last year, have talked about fivefold ministry out of Ephesians 4 is kind of a theme for impact, but going into 2022, it's going to be, you ready for it? Spiritual giftings. Because if we don't grasp that, then we don't have the ability to truly move forward. So if you have your scriptures, 1 Corinthians 12. I'm going to give you a real quick overview of what we're going to be talking about through this series. It's a 3-week series that God could turn into a 6-week series or the next year series. I don't know. But this is going to be something that we're going to talk about. We're going to unwrap. We're going to figure out. So how many people have ever thought about the correlation between 1 Corinthians 12, 13, and 14? Anyone ever thought about that correlation? So we have the gifts of the Spirit, the love chapter, and then how the gifts of the Spirit are used in the church. And it's not by a coincidence that we have that. How many people understand that without love, gifts are worthless? Right? Because if you don't have love, then the gifts are going to turn into weapons instead of tools for the advancement of the kingdom. And so we are going to be talking in 12, 13, and 14. We're going to talk about our gifts, the love we should have for others, the honor aspect that Casey talked about today, and then going into 14, where what it's supposed to look like in the church. Verse 12:1 says, "How about spiritual gifts, brothers? I do not want you to be ignorant." Everyone say ignorant. What's ignorance? Not knowing. How many people here are ignorant about things? I'll raise my hand. There's things I'm ignorant about. There's things I don't know. There's things I probably think I'm not ignorant about, but I'm probably ignorant about. One of the things you find out about me, if you're with me very long, I'm really good at faking it till I make it. I can say things that you will think, man, he knows what he's talking about. I don't have a clue. I've come to the conclusion, if you're going to run for legislature, you got to have a little fake it till you make it mentality, because there's so much to learn. You'll get yourself in the middle of a situation and go, oh God, please help me, because I don't know what I'm doing. So we don't want you guys to be ignorant. Paul didn't want you to be ignorant. I don't want you to be ignorant. Verse 2, you know that when you were pagans, somehow or another, you were influenced and led astray to mute idols. He's just going to start working. I need someone to time this. Get a phone out and time this, Gabe. Okay, so we are going to cut through this log with this saw. Don't mind them. Just let them cut, unless he's too loud. So it says right here, there are many different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but the same God, working all of them in all men. Meaning that there is no higher level, lower level. There's no entry and exit. You are able, you can take a break if you get tired. You are able to take and to go through life with the Holy Spirit leading you, guiding you, and working in your life. And it goes on in 7, it says, now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. Everyone say common good. What's the Spirit for? The common good. Do you find you anywhere in common good? So the Spirit of God is not for you. It's for who? All of us. So God isn't going to give. So this is it. Listen up. Listen up. The Spirit of God is not for you. It's for the common good. Now, salvation is for you. But the infilling of the Spirit is for all those around you. So how many people here in Acts, when you hear in Acts where the Holy Spirit fell on the disciples and they were filled with other tongues and there was fire and it was a radical deal, right? How many people ever thought, well, the Spirit is so I can get a prayer language? The Spirit is so I can be empowered to lead a more godly life. The Spirit is so that you can go and touch the world. That's what it's for. So it says here in verse 8, to the one there is given through the Spirit the message of wisdom, the other the message of knowledge, by means of the same Spirit, to another faith, by the same Spirit, to another the gift of healing, by the one Spirit, to another miraculous powers, to another prophecy, to another distinguishing between spirits, to another speaking in different kinds of tongues, until still to another the interpretation of those tongues. All of these are the works of one and the same Spirit, and he gives them to each one just as he determines. Dude, I'm impressed. You know what this is called? This is called youth. I love youth. I'd have given up by now. What? No, you're right, I wouldn't have. You're right, I wouldn't have. So let's real quick. Adam Clark defines spiritual gifts as gracious endowments leading to miraculous results. I'll say it again. Spiritual gifts are gracious endowments leading to miraculous results. Right? God is giving you a gift that's going to lead to a miraculous result. How cool is it the fact that our kids, best thing that happened last week, we had one term that was given, and it was this. Gabe said it whenever he was asked why the youth group is seeing healing. Do you know what he said? Because we don't know anything else. They don't know any different. They said, we can heal? Okay, we can heal. They believe it. They walk in it, and we're seeing outcomes that work. They're understanding how to ride with training wheels right now. I'm going to tell you right now over you youth, you're just beginning. You guys will see legs grow back in your lifetime. You will see sockets that don't have eyeballs grow eyeballs. You're going to see things like large tumors disappear instantaneously, where someone could stand on the scale and then step off and then stand back on and lose 30 pounds because a tumor is removed. Okay, I'm just going to stop them because this is painful. We're good. Tell you what, why don't you help us? Andrew's going to help us. So, how many people think that Christianity looks about like what he just did? He got through about half that log, very crooked. Oh, what am I supposed to do? Live a godly life. Oh, what am I supposed to do? Try help people. Sorry, all the kids are like, what happened? We're doing it. And God says, hey, but I've called you to represent who? Jesus. And if we represent Jesus, then we should have the power of Jesus. We're good. If the firemen show up, we'll invite them in. Okay? We should have the power of Jesus. We shouldn't look like the world, you guys. When we do things, we should look like we've got power. When we say, hey, you know what? I serve a God that can heal, we should see the manifestations of healing then. Whenever we sit there and say, I have a God that knows your past, your present, and your future, and let me talk about it. The power of God inside of us changes everything. So right here, as it says this, it says right here, to one there is given through the Spirit the message of wisdom, to the other the message of knowledge. It goes through and breaks them down, and I want to talk real quick, and I want to break them down. So I'm going to get back on. I got 20 minutes. You ready? So in the beginning, it says, I don't want you to be ignorant. The Corinthian Christians are given a reminder that it is good for us also. Perhaps we are ignorant of things regarding spiritual gifts, and we should not be. So if you got your notes, if you're taking notes, I want to give you 3 things that Paul tells us not to be ignorant about. You ready for these? Number one, in Romans 11:25 through 32, and I don't have time to read them. This is your homework. It says, "Don't be ignorant of God's plan for Israel." Don't be ignorant of God's plan for Israel, right? Come on. God has a plan for Israel, and it's not over. In Romans, it says, hey, there will be a time where they will have a hardened heart while the Gentiles come to the cross. But his goal is for Israel to be saved. There's the paraphrase of Romans. Okay, don't be ignorant about God's plan for Israel. Second, 1 Thessalonians 4:13 through 18. Again, 1 Thessalonians 4:13 through 18. It says, don't be ignorant about the second coming of Jesus and the eternal state. We should be fully engaged in this world, yet fully realizing that God's called us. Right? This world is my home because I've been placed here. But the moment God says, hey, it's time to move, let's roll. Third thing, don't be ignorant of spiritual gifts. The three things Paul says is don't be ignorant of God's plan for Israel. Don't be ignorant about the second coming of Jesus and the eternal state. And third, don't be ignorant of spiritual gifts. Those are the only three things he says don't be ignorant of. If I were to be very honest with you, I believe that most Christians are ignorant of all three. Right? Israel? What? Isn't that somewhere over in the Middle East? Right? What's going on with Israel today? I don't know. I think I saw something in the news. People are ignorant about Israel and God's plan for Israel. Should everyone be a missionary to Israel? No. But I'm going to tell you right now, if they're not on your prayer list, get them on your prayer list. Because every single people group in that area wants to see them eliminated. And in some ways, they've succeeded. Second is this. Don't be ignorant about the second coming of Jesus. Like I said, we have a dual citizenship, but this is where you've been placed. Get to it. And then finally, don't be ignorant of spiritual gifts. So you guys have to realize that the Holy Spirit is always present. So I want to talk about, I feel the presence of God. It's always been there. You just actually tuned into the frequency. Because right now, how many people understand the concept of that, where the radio station's always playing, you just might not be tuned into it. God's always speaking. The flow is always going. You just might not be tying into it. Tune into it, guys. Because when you tune into it, you hear the voice of God and you can move in that. There is never a time where the presence of God is more close or further away. The presence of God is everywhere. The difference is if you're tuning into it or you're not. Okay. So let's talk about the word of knowledge. Let's start there in 8, where it talks about one has been given through the Spirit the message of wisdom, and then the message of knowledge. Words of wisdom and words of knowledge. So I want to just talk about that real quick. How many people knew that Charles Spurgeon got saved by a word of knowledge? How many people knew that? Charles Spurgeon got saved by a word of knowledge, and this is the story. So the word of knowledge, unique ability to declare knowledge that can only be revealed supernaturally, is seen in throughout Scripture, Matthew and Acts. But when Charles Spurgeon was saved, he was at the preaching of a man who directed a portion of his sermon directly at the young Spurgeon, who supernaturally spoke right to where Spurgeon's heart was, and this was through a direct word of knowledge. Everyone who's wondering, this right here is really cool because this is one of the old non-EPA saws. It means it smokes. That's why everyone smells it. Smells like hunting camp. So I want to talk real quick, and we need to differentiate between the word of knowledge and the word of wisdom. You ready? Okay, we need to know the difference between the word of wisdom and the word of knowledge. One may have great knowledge and even supernatural knowledge, yet have no wisdom from God in the application of that knowledge. Okay, let me say it again because this is really important to understand. One may have great knowledge, even supernatural knowledge, yet have no wisdom from God in the application of that knowledge. How many people have you ever met where they could tell you something? Oh, you need fill in the blank. Cool. How do I put it in? Oh, I don't know. You need a new alternator. Oh, really? Yeah. Well, how do you put it in? I don't know. They have knowledge, the knowledge that you need an alternator, but they have no wisdom on how to replace the alternator. Right? And so you need to understand that we can have words of wisdom and words of knowledge. Now, this is the difference. God won't usually give you both. Why? Ooh, there we go. We're supposed to operate as a body. We need each other. We need each other. I guarantee you that for Cadence, there was just a little bit inside of you when I cut that with that chainsaw that you're like, really? Just a little. I mean, it took you, how long did you say? You're 4, and he's about a third through. And it would have gotten harder because there was way more drag on this saw. And he was pinching it because it's actually turning now. It was going to get way harder. But he didn't give up. Come on. But how many people understand that God says, I really want this, my people, to be able to work together? So to some, by the same Spirit, I will give you a word of knowledge, and I'm going to give you the wisdom on how to equip it. You need to be obedient and speak it, and you need to be obedient and actually unbox it for people. Doesn't mean that you're more wise than him. It just means that God's using you in a different aspect, in a different way. Can I tell you, right now, the church, I believe, is not actually walking in spiritual gifts. We pick our favorites. Just like on the fivefold ministry, we have no problem with pastors, teachers, and evangelists, as long as evangelists only come once a year and stay in the hotel down the street instead of that one, right? But we don't want prophets or apostles because that's weird. But now on the flip side, when it comes to spiritual gifts, we're just fine with some spiritual gifts. Everyone wants a healing, but tongues? That's a little weird, right? Everyone wants a healing because that's going to be good for me, but what about that? So you need to understand that words of knowledge, words of wisdom, the difference. So real quick, too, humility is required for spiritual gifts to be used. Can I say it again? Humility is required for spiritual gifts to be used. I don't believe that there's this whole, you got to be a Christian this long before you can use your spiritual gifts. No, that's not it at all. But the moment you're like, man, I'm hitting this word of knowledge thing out of the park, I'm pretty wise. I'm pretty knowledgeable. God goes, no, you're conduit. You're conduit. That's all you are. God is phenomenal. We're conduit. Okay. Now hear me right. That makes you phenomenal. But if you forget what's flowing through you, you just turn right back into just nothing. So we always need to remember that God is the only source of supernatural knowledge. That doesn't mean that you can't have true words, but it might not be a God word. Okay. So the gift of faith. How many people understand that faith is such an important aspect to the journey? We heard it last week from the youth. Faith is the gateway or the doorway for us to be able to see supernatural healing, right? Faith is the foundation. And so the gift of faith, through faith is an essential part of every Christian's life. The gift of faith is the unique ability to trust God against all circumstances. No matter what, trust God. George Mueller was probably one of the best examples in our day of someone who had supernatural faith. George Mueller, if you don't know the story, in the 19th century England provided for thousands of orphans completely by prayer. He was like literally the first missionary with no funding source. And he ran the most successful orphanages ever and never once asked for a donation. Now, how did he do it? There's stories, all sorts of stories of like setting all the kids down at the table and saying, okay, we're now going to thank God for the food. And the kids are like, there's no food on the table. That's okay, we'll still thank God for the food. And as they're praying, before they say amen, there's a knock on the door. And God's there with all the food they ever could have needed to place on that table to feed those mouths. Why? Because they had faith. If you don't need God to save your situation, then it isn't a God-sized situation. Time to upgrade. God, if we could just figure out how to do fill in the blank, well, guess what? We could do that without God, but we need God. So let's upgrade our vision. Let's upgrade our dream. Why? Because the faith that I have needs to be big enough that there's no way I, you, or this church could figure it out. Only God could do it. That's where we need to go. The gift of faith, gift of healing. God's heart is healing. There we go. God's heart's healing. You want to know also where I feel we're standing? Is why would we not want to use all the tools in our tool belt to show the world how good our God is? How good our daddy is? The person that rolls in here in a wheelchair and questions the goodness of God and walks out of here outside of the wheelchair, I'm going to promise you, isn't going to be questioning the goodness of God any longer. Why should we not show off who our God is through our lives? It should change who we are. Every single person on this planet desperately needs a relationship with the Almighty. Let's be a part of making it happen. So you need to realize, some people, you might be sitting there and going, okay, let's just, I want to bring a clarification. When you get saved, you become the temple of the Holy Spirit. Your life is turned over to God. You hand over the keys, the steering wheel, the reins, whatever you want, whatever flavor you like, right? That doesn't have to do with the giftings of the Spirit. That's the doorway into the kingdom. You're part of the family. Good job. Okay, so if it was a situation, I'm gonna use Andrew again. Come on up here, Andrew. And I were gonna say, Andrew, you're part of the kingdom now. Welcome. Hey. Congratulations, you made it. It's so good to have you as a brother. Your job is to go into all the world and be an image of your dad, who's the king, right? And what that looks like is doing all of these things for people, these things for the kingdom, these things that advance the kingdom of God. And those things are going to be called this log. I want you need to get this log cut up, but you don't get any tools. None. That's impossible. I mean, you'd be gnawing for a while on that thing. Fingernails will be gone, right? It would cause you harm. And God never asked anyone to join into his family, be a part of his kingdom, unless he equipped them. That was not his desire. Why do you think Paul says, don't be ignorant? You've been called to have power to do the job. Now, I'm going to say this. God says, I've got all the stuff you ever need. And because you're my son, what's in my shed's now your shed. And furthermore, I will show you how to use it. Now, he has a choice. You could keep trying to gnaw on that log, which most of us do. Hurts, but true. Or you could sit there and go, oh, you know what? I'm going to go to the lowest common level and work my tail off. And I'm going to feel really spiritual. Because do you see how hard I'm working? I hope everyone sees how hard I'm working. You know what? That boy was sweating, and that says a lot because he's in good shape. He probably plays football. He does. He was not sweating. Never mind, guys. Or you can pick up the tool that God says, hey, this is the best. This will take care of it. And I think, Andrew, you can sit down. And I think so often we're guilty of coming through the door of salvation and then saying, oh, I've arrived. This is all it is. Salvation isn't about you going to heaven. Salvation is you bringing heaven to earth, bringing God's kingdom to earth, bringing the heart and the love of the Father to earth. That's the gifts. That's why they're there. The gifts aren't for you. We read that at the beginning. They're not for you. They're for who? The body, the congregation. Furthermore, you ready for it? The church. Outside the church. When we leave the four walls, when we go into the grocery stores, when we go into the workplaces, when we go into the schoolrooms, when we go into those places that God has called us, into the capital, wherever it is, and God says, hey, you know what? I can melt in a moment what the world can't touch in a lifetime. Word of knowledge, boom, into this moment. When someone goes, wait, how did you know that? Only God knows that. So how did I know it? God. You bring a word of wisdom because they had a question in their brain they couldn't answer, and you bring a word of wisdom that gives them the keys to unlock that door and walk through in their life, and they go, wait a second. How did you know? I couldn't tell. Only God knows that stuff. But that's how much he cares about you. Words of wisdom, words of knowledge. You know what? The faith that says, you know what? No matter what trips loose, no matter what fails around me, no matter what goes wrong, God, you're good. And your goodness is not dictated by my circumstances. Let me say it again because that's a really good one. God's goodness is not dictated by your circumstances. If that were the case, Paul would have all sorts of things to really have a beef with God about. Paul's like, shipwrecked, bummer, poisonous snake, bad day, right? Do you think Paul ever once was like, God, I thought you were for me? Paul's like, shake it off into the fire. It's not a big deal. Why? Because I need to see the emperor, and I'm not going to see the emperor in a casket. Not killing me. That's faith. We're talking about a gift of faith. That's faith. Okay? Gifts of healing. God is saying, you know what? I am releasing you into a healing ministry that the world can't deny. And I'll be honest with you, like, awesome eyesight, awesome, you know what? We've got people who have had skin diseases that are no longer have skin diseases. You know, how cool is this stuff? But I'll be completely honest with you. I've told God, I'm looking forward to the day when I see my first leg grow. Where it's one of those things where you're like, I got a prosthetic for sale? I've said it before, if our youth keep it up, we will have a side business's impact of selling wheelchairs and prosthetics. We will. We'll have to. Why? Because who else needs it? We don't. We don't need them in our church. Because that's the heart of the Father, is to bring healing to his kids. So it goes on and it says, healing. After that, it says miraculous power. Miraculous power. That's literally like your get out of jail free card. Miraculous power. It's miracle working power. Hey, you know what? Your engine's blown up and you can't afford a new one. But my God can fix engines. There's a hole in the side of the block. You haven't met my God. It's going to cost $7,000. I don't think that it will. Where they're like, well, we can do that? Yes, we can do that. Because we've been given the power to do that. Why? So that you can exceed? No, so that the body can exceed. So the world can be shown. So that the life that we live will be a pedestal, a beacon on a hill, that when the world sees us, they say, hey, we want what you've got. We don't want to live this lackluster life anymore. We want to have supernatural life. So it says this. It says miraculous power. To another, prophecy. Prophecy is foretelling that which will come. Scripture, in another place, it says that he will never do anything without yet first telling the prophets. Why? Why wouldn't he? Discerners. Hun, would you mind standing up? When Lori and I first, no, come on. When Lori and I first got married, she would have these discerning moments where she'd be like, they're lying. And I'd be like, oh, no, they're not. I would say it was 12 years into our marriage when was the first time that I was ever like, God gave me her for ministry, because literally I'll ask her, hey, give me what you saw, because she'll see it and it'll take place. Like, she's spot on. Or she'll be like, they're going to burn the church. And I'll be like, no, they're great. 6 months later, they're burning the church. Thank you. She has that gift. It's a gift she's been given. She walks in it beautifully. And she walks in this concept of distinguishing between spirits where she's like, that's not right, or, oh, that's right on. Right? Someone has that. Maybe you're like, oh, I just thought it was mother's intuition. No. You've been given a discerning spirit. We're almost done. To another, speaking in different kinds of tongues, and still to another, the interpretation of. Okay, we'll talk more about tongues in 14, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but this is what you need to realize. It's a supernatural way of discussing. It's your spirit speaking. Now, that can come in a number of ways. We'll talk about that in 14, but one of the cool parts about it is we have seen and heard many examples where someone speaks in tongues and someone in the room's like, I didn't know they knew fluid Polish. Like Beth. This is it. If there's a tongue, there should be an interpretation or a revelation that comes out of it. Now, what this looks like is this. God should always be glorified. Okay, we'll talk more about that. All these are the works of one and the same Spirit, and he gives them to each one just as he determines. Every person in this place has spiritual giftings and spiritual callings that only your giftings are going to unlock. And if you don't realize that, then I want you to start praying, God, what is my spiritual gifting, and how do I unlock it for the realization of it in my life? And what does it look like? It will change the world, you guys. It will change your world whenever you see those things. Whenever you walk out of the front door of your house and all of a sudden God starts giving you a heart for people and you're speaking words of wisdom and words of knowledge into their life. Whenever you're walking in the prophetic or in the miraculous or whatever it may be, changing the world with the love of Jesus. Amen? 1 Corinthians 12, the gifts. 13, love. 14, the use. Can I just tell you, this is the thing that I want you guys to talk about right now, or think about. Don't pursue the gifts yet. Let's figure out love and the use. There you go. It needs to be together. And so why am I saying that? I'm not going to be like, God, we're going to pray for gifts to be released today. No. Let's be students. Let's learn, and then let's equip and walk in. Can we do that? So remember, God's giving you the ability for the tool shed. What are we going to pick up to do the job? The chainsaw. And I'm a steel fan, even though I have a huge Husqvarna in front of you today. It just, long story. Doesn't matter. But today, guys, if you remember nothing else, remember this. The gifts aren't for you. They're for the world. And God is not going to, I'll leave it with this. Why would God give you this tool if you only used it for you? Furthermore, why would God give this tool to someone who's going to hurt people with it instead of help the kingdom with it? Let's pray. God, I thank you that we've been given gifts. God, I thank you that you literally said, I call you my children, and then I equip you to be as powerful as I am. God, that's so cool. God, that is the heart of you to sit there and say, let them be called, then let them be equipped. They don't have to do it alone because I sent my Spirit. I sent them gifts. So God, this Christmas season, I pray that every person in this place would be able to unwrap a gift that you've given them. That they'd be able to unbox that. They would be able to use that. It wouldn't just be something set upon a shelf. It wouldn't just sit in the shed. But they would be able to say, today's the day I get to just show off God. And tomorrow and the next day and every day. Because I get to use my gifts, not for me, but for you. And God, as we heard from Casey today, God, when we use those gifts, we benefit too. Because that's your heart. Your heart is to bless us. So God, the gifts, the callings, the electives, God, are amazing. Let us walk in them. Let us work with them. And let us be called by them, God. We thank you and praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.